All right. Brenda. Hi. We're back. Can you hear me? You can't hear me, can you? There we go. You can hear me now, can't you,
I can.
Brenda? All right, cool. Good. I guess I was talking to you and I was muted, so you didn't hear what I was telling you. Someone texted me and asked, "Are we doing live today?" Yes, we are. Here we are, Brenda.
All right.
How are you? It's Monday. How are you?
It has been a busy day.
Yeah.
I've been nonstop since about 6 o'clock this morning. So,
Wow.
uh,
6 o'clock?
it's all
What have you
good.
been doing since 6 o'clock?
Well, I had to go get my blood drawn across town, and then I came back and move everything away from windows because I'm having new windows put in on the bottom part of my house. And so it's just been a busy one. They're still pounding on the walls, so
There you go.
you can hear the pounding in the background. That's what it is.
That's wild. Yeah, I heard a little bit of it earlier. I don't hear them right now, but yeah, that's wild. That's funny. Yeah, I was looking at the camera and I don't look as pasty pale as I did, but my face is actually like red, which is really funny because on camera I just look normal, but in person I actually have a red nose. So I don't know what filter or whatever is active here in the,
Shall we
the
call
lighting
you
thing.
Rudolph?
Yeah, maybe a little bit. I was at Sue's this weekend because our AC went out,
Yeah.
and that has been a nightmare situation. But she was like, "Well, come on down and bring the kids, sit by the pool, and you can take our portable AC back up and borrow it for a bit." And I'm like, "Okay, that sounds like something I need to do." So we
This
went.
heat is miserable.
It's bad, you know. I don't know if I was reading somewhere, or Crystal was telling me that of the 31 hottest day, or is it, yeah, 31, no, 28 hottest days in the last 30 years, 7 of them have been this year.
Oh,
Isn't that wild?
it is.
That's wild. It's hot. It's hot. It's definitely been hot. So, you know what's hotter than that though? The conversation topic today, PEP. We're gonna roll right into it. Brenda, you guys have been working on things in the background with Step Up. Do you want to give us a little bit of an update?
Yes. We have been working with Step Up for really since the beginning of this bill, trying to get everything set up so that we have a separation between home education and the new PEP so that parents have a choice to be able to stay in home education without anything being changed, altered in statute, and then creating a new program called the Personalized Education Program. And in the process of the bill passing and then trying to make the implementation of the new law into reality, there's quite a few um, changes that have to be made with the entities and organizations that administer the scholarship, which the legislature did not address at the time they were passing HB1. And so we've had to work out all of these things to make sure that PEP students have the same opportunities as home education students. So
Yes.
the forms had to be changed with the FHSAA.
Yep.
The way of providing the Bright Futures office with volunteer hours
Yep.
had to be worked out. Dual enrollment had to be worked out,
Yep.
and
It's
all
still
the
being
other
worked out in
things.
a lot of places.
Yes. So
Mm-hmm.
we've been working with those organizations, and we've been working together to make sure that we have created definitions to explain exactly what the home education instructional programs are that's mentioned in statute. And those, it's been kind of hard to get a handle around those. I think we've done a pretty decent job talking to the various programs that offer classes to home education students to make sure
Mm-hmm.
they're included. We came up with a definition and then realized that the definition excluded some of the classical conversations programs, because what we didn't know is many of the checks for the tuition and fees are made out to the individual director
Mm-hmm.
who is in charge of that local program. So then Step Up went back because classical conversation had been on the list since the beginning of the FESUA scholarship about maybe 5 years ago, when we converted that from the Gardner Scholarship over to the FESUA. Maybe that was 3 years ago. But in the Gardner Scholarship, Classical Conversations was approved as a
Mm.
provider for home education. We didn't call them instructional programs then, but they were on the list.
Okay.
So, Jason, can you pull up that definition?
Yeah, certainly. When give me a timeline on this. When did you realize that that needed to be updated and you were working with them? Is that something that happened like yesterday, or was that something that was a couple of weeks ago?
I believe it was the middle of June. Um,
There we go.
and they had to take it back to the department. And they came up with wording after realizing that we had excluded those classical conversations. Scroll up a little bit. I need that very last statement, number 5.
Yeah, I was just trying to give
Okay,
them an
there
idea
you
of
go.
what the document was.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, Step Up's position at this point, and all I can say is where we are today, is
Mm-hmm.
that anybody who's offering instructional programs to home education students taking, or should say, personalized education program students, um, are, if they fit this definition, then they're going to be approved as
Mm-hmm.
vendors or providers. So the last bullet was just be a business organization and stop there. And so when we realized that some of the directors were being paid directly, they went
Mm-hmm.
in and added the parentheses which says tuition and fees may not be payable to an individual. That was already there. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry. Tuition and fees may not be was in the definition. The exception is what they added, except for my pictures in the way. I can't read that. Jason,
Oh,
read that.
yeah, it says except for regional program directors or designated liaisons of national home educational communities.
Okay, so they put that in there to include classical conversations.
Yeah.
Some parents have been um, asking if their classical conversations is going to be approved. And I just want them to know it's not on the state side or on Step Up
Right.
side that they
Yeah.
would be excluded, because that language was put in there to include them as a home education
Mm-hmm.
instructional program.
And this is the
So,
document that is for home education program participation agreement. This is the agreement form, and that language is in the agreement form. So as they fill this out, uh, they're able to see that's there. And my question for you was, as far as the timeline of this, was about sometimes it takes time for language to get put into things, but then
yes,
also um, this isn't something that has happened reactively. This was a part of the planning process back in June
yes,
to make sure that it was as all inclusive as possible.
exactly.
So yeah.
Yes, they've tried to make it as inclusive. I want to say vague. It's not really vague, but it's not specific either in terms of which groups can and which ones can't. As we talked about the groups that are currently serving home education students with classes and out activities, we were careful to put in the word, if you'll see bullet number 2, provide courses and or activities. So if they fit the rest of it, for example, there's a program that offers PE, which would provide sports to home education students. This probably also will apply to the groups that have sports teams that are made up only of home education students, and now they'll be made up of home education students and PEP. Now that one, that activity to cover that extracurricular activities, and we didn't put extra or um, core academic or anything in there. We just used general words, trying not to limit anybody. Working with those 2 teams that I know of, but it applies to any teams in the state that are all made up of home education students. We had to go back to the FHSAA and say, oh, we are supposed to be giving the PEP students the same options as we give to home education students. So they revised their wording and created a new form for the PEP students and allow them to play with the other home education students that were already on the team. So we've worked this definition. It didn't all just come out magically. I started working on a definition I submitted to them back in May, and I thought mine was pretty good. But by the time we got to these final bullets, I think they've done a much better, more inclusive definition than what we started with. We're still working on a couple of things that we haven't figured out yet, but those will be forthcoming in terms of distinguishing between co-ops and umbrella private schools and some of the other ways that home education students get classes. That one is still being discussed, so we'll have an update as soon as some decisions are being made.
Yeah, somebody asked, does the home education program need to be named in the personal education plan submitted as Step Up?
You mean student learning plan?
Personal education. Yes, I believe that's what they meant.
Okay. No. And Crystal is not here with us today, but she has filled that form out. Once it goes to apply and then you put in your information, those are things that I don't know unless somebody brings them to my attention, because I'm not applying. I know the law. I know.
You're done with your homeschooling, Brenda.
Many years ago.
Yeah.
So
some of those questions are unique and specific to Step Up itself, and there are questions that we try to get the answers for. Obviously, we like to know and be able to help as much as we can, but they're not HEF proprietary information. We don't have the inside track on it unless somebody who's a parent is able to do that. My wife is one, so she kind of collects a ton of that information and goes, oh no, it does this, it looks like this, it says this, and shares that. But that's definitely...
I can just say from what Crystal has said, and I did see a tutorial before it actually came out. There are 2 check boxes, and one is you want to put in, if you think your child is maybe a little deficient in math, then you're going to put in, I'm going to work on math this year with my child. And then there's another one that is designed primarily for character. So maybe it is cooperation, but everything is very general and nobody is going to check it. So there are two boxes that you check and put in your general plan. And then there is, if you want to go clicking on all the links in there, there's some very, to me, a little bit over the top information because they've based it on public school information, and they will give you kind of the benchmarks of what a child should do in certain grade levels and kind of dig deep into that stuff, but you don't have to click on that. You don't have to give any of that information. They felt like that would be helpful. And of course, every law relating to parents directing the education of their children takes a whole lot of education on our part, the Home Education Foundation's part, both at the district level and at the state level, and with these organizations that we work with. Behind the scenes, nobody ever sees to educate them about what homeschoolers are required to do, because all of their training is ingrained in the laws and the responsibilities and requirements relating to public school. So we have to continually educate them and say to the district, no, home education students don't keep hours and days. Here's where it says that in the law. Or no, we don't have to turn in XYZ form, whatever you think you should be turning in. It's just constant because there is continually
constant
turnover in the districts, and you get new people, they bring in their public school ideas, and then you got to counter those. So, it really is a job, but we work really hard when establishing like this definition of the program to make sure that there's inclusion, but not overregulation and no fraud. So that's the biggest thing. We do not want fraud in this program, because if there is fraud, you can guarantee there's going to be more regulation. So we just put it in there up front, and that's why some of this stuff is in the home education law, is because we wanted to give them just enough accountability that it would give the legislators comfort, and yet not so much that anybody is actually directing or overseeing your program except the parent.
And that's a fine balance. Like I always say a fine balance. I mean, it's a very narrow, tightrope to walk in terms of finding that balance.
Exactly.
So we got some questions that are coming in. We'll start hitting those. Jim and Amy Bernatek say, can you explain how we will get reimbursed for the items / books purchased? I think they're going to issue you a card, and as you submit your receipts for things that are covered, what they're going to do is load the reimbursement to that card as money directly back to you. So you're not having to wait on checks to come or anything like that. It's going to go directly to a debit card that you're going to be able to just use it on. So don't lose it. Keep it around. Deline Howell says, thank you, HEF. Thank you, Jason and Brenda. This is a valuable resource. People, please donate to HEF so we can keep our advocates and our freedoms. That is awesome. Thank you for saying that. Love you for that. I think our homeschool group, Kelly says, I think our homeschool group would have the same issue for our co-op, since fees are paid directly to the teacher teaching the class. That was, I think, in response to what we were talking about earlier. And then Melissa says, I think she says, do you know why we can't take live classes like Veritas Omnibus? I'm not familiar.
Like what? I didn't understand.
Veritas Omnibus. It's an online. Let me look at it. Let me see. It's an online self-paced courses, I believe. There might be.
Was it denied? Why is she saying we can't take them?
Maybe it was, or maybe she was told it was not on the list. I don't know the answer to that. if you could comment, Melissa, if you could comment back and, oh, they're live classes online, so it would fall under virtual programs, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna. Let me grab the statute. I don't have it
Somebody
right here.
commented further down and said that it might be because it's not based in Florida.
No, it says
Where's the
digital. Um, just look at the actual wording in the statute. Digital materials.
Hey, but a live class would count as digital materials?
Well, if it's online, I don't know if it's digital or not.
I would think it wouldn't count as digital materials.
It's it may be that the people that are providing the classes have to be certified teachers. If they're not certified teachers in Florida, then that could be the reason. If it is denied, I don't know that it is denied. Here's that part. Instructional materials, including digital materials and internet resources.
What are you looking in?
I'm looking in HB1.
Okay, I'll pull up the language. Give me a second. I didn't know what you were pulling up. I was waiting for you to tell me so I could try to get a sample of it. No, it's okay. Let me.
It's on page 50 of HB1.
I'm looking for my copy. Here it is.
Okay. It may be that they just need to ask for pre-authorization for that, which there is a way to do that on the website once you get into the scholarship part.
Are you talking about the instructional materials, including digital materials and internet resources?
Yes.
Line? Okay.
And then if you go down to, is it E? It says
a virtual program offered by department-approved private online provider that meets the provider qualifications.
If that's the case, then they're going to have to go through the process of getting approved by the department as a provider under that statute, which is 1002.45 parens 2A. Right. It's a process. But because a home education student is taking it as an instructional program, it could be that Step Up could approve that if you ask for pre-authorization on that.
Okay.
They try really hard to find a category that they can put classes and things that parents want. So they may feel comfortable putting it under the home education instructional program. I can't speak for them for that. You just have to ask for pre-authorization.
There's some commenting back and forth. I'm just trying to sift through and find what's next. Rebecca Woodruff says, I was told they could not because they're not in Florida. In response to this. I don't know who told her that, though. Was that a Step Up?
Yeah, that I would like to know. It would be helpful because I can circle back with them and get their thinking on that. Sometimes the call centers say things that are not exactly true. So we need to get to the decision makers at Step Up. And if the call center is giving incorrect information, they will correct that with the call centers. So be sure and email us through, where shall they email us with that information, Jason?
info@flhef.org. Kelly says, yes, there were 2 columns, and you check up to 6 of the educational and up to 6 of the character items for the planning to work on this year, and then they have you rate where you think your child now is currently. Okay. And then Deline Howell says, I can't see the document very well. Is that the purchasing guide on the screen or legislation or the handbook? I'm not sure when that was. 7 minutes ago. It was probably this is actually the home education program participation agreement. So
But
this is
it is in the purchasing guide. If you go to the page for the FTC PEP, this is in the purchasing guide.
got you. The SLP is blah, blah, blah. It's super simple. Oh, the SLP is almost a joke. It's super simple. And if someone had asked me to turn in a student learning plan, it would look nothing like the general form of multiple choice answers in SFUS. LOL. Yeah, you're right. It's meant to be very basic and non-invasive as possible. When and where do we send receipts to? That would be to Step Up.
Or to AAA. We just keep
Or to
talking,
AAA, that's true.
we keep talking about Step Up because they have an extensive website so that all the information is there. But AAA has to agree to these same definitions and the things that have been put out there by December, the middle of December. I don't know that there's a date, it just says December. And the DOE has to agree on everything. And I'm sure that DOE is working with AAA as well to make sure they're aware of these definitions. So, it's AAA. It's just more hands-on, and I haven't really reached out to them because things are going so fast and furiously.
Yeah. Jennifer Watson says, if we are approved for PEP, can we purchase anything from the purchasing guide and get reimbursed?
If it's not excluded, like
Yes.
like
If it's in
horse
the purchasing
therapy,
guide.
horse therapy, and I can't think of another thing that FESUA has in there that would not be approved for PEP students. They tried to put everything in the same purchasing guide.
Okay.
And then just exclude this isn't covered by PEP.
It's a little light reading, I think.
Yeah, this is light compared to what I read during the session.
Yeah, I imagine. I imagine so. If I'm a recipient of the PEP scholarship, may I continue to use it while applying for a Unique Abilities scholarship? Or do I need to cancel my PEP scholarship before applying for UA? It's an interesting question.
Well, the timing is important there because you can't have both at the same time.
Correct.
So that would be a Step Up question or AAA question because they've got to make that switch over. You can apply for the FESUA. If you don't do that this year, then at the beginning of next year when you go for renewal, but they should be able to switch you in the middle of the year. It's just something they've got to figure out how to do.
Yep. When the purchase guide says no multiples of items, does that mean per child, such as storage containers? It says no duplicates of one item. Also, the cap for a play set, for example, says up to 1,000. It says 1,000K, but I'm assuming that just means 1,000 paid. Is that per child? So if you purchase, sorry, there was more to it. If you purchase a $3,000 play set, can you submit the cap of 1,000 per child? That's an interesting question.
That you need to ask for pre-authorization for before you do it.
Yeah, I would definitely ask Step Up how to navigate that. That's more of their system kind of question. Does that mean per child to storage? Okay, I think we answered that though. Okay, good.
I think what she's asking maybe is if they have 3 children, can you submit 1,000 for each child?
For each child, yeah, to buy the play set.
I don't know that.
Do you know if the debit cards? Do you know if the debit cards provides fraud protection if fraudulent purchases are made? I don't know the answer to that. The debit card is only going to have funds on it that come from reimbursement to you. So I don't know that you'll be using it for widespread purchases in a lot of places for that information to get stolen. I would assume that it's going to come with a lot of the standard protections that most debit cards come with now. I don't actually know who. Do you know, Brenda, who's
I don't know anything about the debit
publishing or
card.
creating
We can
the
ask those
cards?
questions and answer it at a future time, but I don't
Okay.
know any of those answers about the debit card.
Yeah, and I would assume that they're similar to the FESUA ones, where are.
Somebody was asking if they could cash out the card. I'm going to be on a call at 1:30, and
Okay.
I will ask for more information on that debit card.
Okay.
But
Cool.
we may have to cover that next time.
Okay. Good. 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 Do you know if the debit card? Oh, I can't. Okay, I already read that one. Sorry. With the FESUA and SUFS. Oh, I love all of these acronyms. Oh, okay. With FESUA and SUFS, they require live instruction, whether online or in person, to be certified teachers in Florida or meet other credentials required for part-time tutoring. Oh, that was a comment to the earlier section. Okay, I got it. Oh, I lost my place because it jumped. Oh, there we are. Okay. Some of these are comments going back and forth with each other, which is good. Appreciate you guys helping each other out. Any information if ABECA accredited can be used?
Say the question again.
Do you have any information if ABECA accredited can be used? I don't know what ABECA accredited is. Is that a virtual
see any
program
reason.
or a...
I don't know. I mean, I know they have videos that not a lot, some parents use, and then they send that information for their assignments into ABECA, and I think at the end they get a diploma. But all I know is that ABECA has been approved. Which program of ABECA's, I don't know that either. That's going to be something that you need to ask up front, because I don't know whether Step Up and AAA are going to consider that curriculum. I think that they probably would, but I don't know if curriculum is going to be defined as books and papers. I'm not sure how that's going to be handled.
Then will PEP have access to the Step Up Scholarship online store?
Yes, if it's on the Scholar Shop.
Okay. Live classes. I'm in a Facebook group specifically for the FTC PEP, and many previous UA families are chiming in about what has and hasn't been approved in the past. It's been really helpful, as we're assuming much will be similar for PEP. But just keep that in mind, though, that it is an assumption, and there are some differences between PEP and FESUA, so there might end up being deliverable differences. I don't know for a fact that they would say change the debit cards manufacturers to something else that doesn't have fraud protection while the FESUA ones do. I wouldn't even speculate on it. We'll just go to them and ask and get the answers for you. So the struggle with online courses like OutSchool has been you need to meet requirements of part-time tutor if it is a live class. This includes being a Florida certified teacher, having a degree in the field. It is uncomfortable to ask for diplomas, and then often also transcripts and marriage certificates for name changes. Also, the bill needs the child's full name, and OutSchool doesn't want last name on their system, though they provide... this is a comment toward virtual. Yeah, it's a challenge for virtual programs, for sure. A friend was also told that if the scholarship funds are awarded for your child, but your application for PEP is not accepted, that you can still use the funds.
Is that there in FESUA?
That would be awesome, but do you think that was incorrect information given? Yeah, that's a weird. A friend was told that if the scholarship funds are awarded for your child, but your application for PEP is not accepted, that you can still use the funds. I'm guessing that they're talking about if you were awarded and then switched from EO to PEP. Um, uh, that's my, I don't know, because
I
then
think
the
there's
funds.
confusion there.
Mm-hmm.
They awarded everybody who applied a scholarship, but you had to accept that as going to a private school
Right.
unless you went the second step and said you wanted a PEP scholarship and you
Mm-hmm.
received documentation that you had been awarded or approved for a PEP scholarship. So no money is given out until you have chosen the scholarship. So I'm not quite sure what they're talking about unless there was money left in the account from a previous year and they said you could use it in the PEP, and that makes sense. But I don't know, maybe the child attended a private school and the tuition was not as much as the scholarship amount, and they had money left in their
Yeah,
account.
I don't know enough about that to know. That's like one of those test questions where you're like, I feel like I don't know the answer to that. I
I
need more
think
information.
I think when they get their account set up and the money drops into their account, they'll be able to answer that question for themselves.
Sabrina also says that the call center told her she could use Abeka accredited. They said the type of curriculum used won't make you ineligible for PEP funds. Abeka accredited DVD full grade level curriculum does not report anything to the state, such as grades or attendance, simply record keeping of grades received on tests, and then a report card is issued. Um, Question: Karate class. Will karate class be covered for PEP? For P as PE through
Well,
PEP?
with that definition sitting up there on the
Mm-hmm.
screen, it says or activities.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking it could be.
Yeah. Oh, so provides courses and or activities for home education students that enhance and enrich the students' learning ability. So it looks like it would fit this definition. All right. And then, have you been working with the funding organizations on the buying guide, especially the caps in areas that are counterintuitive to homeschool? They are set up more like you are doing public school at home. Keep in mind, I'm going to deviate from reading this comment real quickly. Keep in mind that the majority of the experience that Step Up and others have is homeschooling. We do have 150,000 home educating students as of this year, but that's not anywhere near the majority of students in Florida. So the bulk of the experience from which people are coming from is the assumption of a public school orientation in their minds. So as they're putting together guides and they're thinking about, that's why we're having to work with them to help them understand. So I guess the answer to that is yes, we are working with them on things like that. We're having to work with them to kind of explain to them what it's even like as a homeschooler and a home educator, and what the needs are, what it looks like, what the expectations are, things like that. Brenda, you want to chime in?
We That's been brought to their attention and no decision has been made. They are looking for um, parents if they need something that is more expensive than what those limits are. And I honestly am not sure where those limits came from, whether they were step ups limits based on what people had purchased in the past, or
Mm-hmm.
whether that was something that came from a legislator who felt like they should have some limitations. I don't know where that came from. But what Step Up said was if a parent could justify an expenditure above those limits, then they would take it to the learning specialist and consider it. And the example they gave was an Apple Watch. And I'm not sure how a parent would use an Apple Watch in education that they couldn't do on a computer, or of
Interesting.
course, computers aren't covered under this.
I was going to say, I would think that a computer is far more useful than an Apple Watch. So that's a very interesting comparison.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
some of this stuff is just unknown at this point. And if you want the scholarship and it doesn't cover what you want, I keep telling parents, be grateful. It's $7,000 to $8,000 that you didn't have before. Mm-hmm. So you might have to spend your own money that you were using before to buy the items that are not covered.
And to keep in mind, like the payments roll out 4 times each year, and they do roll over. So as the guide continues to be worked on and built, as things get added or definitions may change, I'm not saying hold on to all of that money in case the definitions change, but there's a good chance that as that money rolls forward and this gets fleshed out more, you can then go, oh, wow, this was added to the list. That's great. But to answer the question, Sandy, have you been working with the funding organizations on the buying guide? Absolutely, 100% yes. That is one of the things that we are constantly working on. If I'm a Florida, Clarabelle asks, if I'm a Florida certified teacher, can I proctor my own kids' standardized tests?
That's another item that Step Up is talking to DOE about. Mm-hmm. And they have taken off the requirement that said that it had to be taken in a public school. And I'm not sure what they're going to end up with, but they're carefully considering whether they would allow a parent to proctor their child's test.
Yes.
We should have more information on that later. Ask that question next week.
Yes, good question. Keep your eye on that one. According to a friend, okay, I joined late, so any updates on timing of switching to PEP? And number of slots still available. I don't know what she means on the timing of switching to PEP. Maybe they had been awarded another private school one and they wanted to not private school do PEP instead. I'm assuming that's the question. But then they also ask any number of slots still available. Do you know?
I don't know exactly how many slots, but I have heard they haven't filled up their 20,000. Now the 20,000 is a combination of AAA and Step Up. So I'm not sure what the total is for that yet, but I haven't heard that they've filled all those scholarship slots.
Got you. Can a virtual course be covered if the teacher is out of state? I think we covered that earlier, but do you want to answer that quickly?
I think that what's in that we highlighted in the bill itself, that the teacher would have to be Florida certified.
Right. Yeah. So here's an interesting question. Is there a list of approved curriculum yet?
Not that I know of.
But curriculum is in and of itself is on the approved list, right?
There's supposed to be a platform, and this would be a question that people who've been awarded the PEP would know. Can you scroll down in the purchasing guide? Somebody had said that actually there was a list, but then I've heard that Step Up didn't want to put a list out because some vendors were upset that their name wasn't on the list. And so they wanted to just say if they met that definition, they would be approved. But scroll down and see if there is a list anywhere of approved vendors in that. Does that make sense?
It does.
I might not have been approved vendors. It might have been approved curriculum that was in there.
Yeah.
But let me say about that,
Yeah.
the law says that if your curriculum, we're not talking about classes, we're talking about curriculum, is not on the list whenever that list appears, and you still want to buy something that's not on the list, you can purchase it with your own money and then get reimbursed, because the wording in the statute is very clear that the scholarship funding organizations have to provide the curriculum that the
Yeah.
parent wants. It says,
Yeah, guardians may choose to submit a pre-authorization to determine expense eligibility prior to purchasing a curriculum, if you want. And then the curriculum must be publicly available for the SFOs to determine eligibility. So that it has to be something that they can look up and see and review in order for them to determine its eligibility. But if you
right,
want to know, ask.
exactly.
Yeah, take it and
It's
submit it.
the law says that that they can establish a platform, and they can require the use of the online platform for direct purchases of product, so long as such use does not limit a parent's choice of curriculum or academic programs. If a parent purchases a product identical to the one offered by the organization's online platform for a lower price, the organization shall reimburse the parent the cost of the product. I assume that's the cost that the parent paid. So the law clearly says they can't require you to use the platform, and it doesn't limit the parent's choice of curriculum.
Mm-hmm.
You may get hassled about it if you don't get prior approval, and it's because it isn't on the platform. Does that make sense? It may take you longer to get reimbursement as somebody reviews it.
So Sandy Colall says, Stuteville says, are you working with SUFS to address pre-authorization process? Pre-authorizations have taken months in the past. It needs to be faster, and also that they will honor them. According to many parents in Facebook support groups, pre-authorization did not guarantee reimbursement. People had pre-authorization purchases denied. So let me be careful here to state the obvious, which is that HEF is not a customer service extension of Step Up for Students or AAA. It really fulfilling the duties of their customer service or their back end services is not a part of what we do. We work with them to make sure that the legal definitions match up, that what's in the law is what's being followed and educated on and informed the process as we move forward. But do you want to chime in on that, Brenda?
No, we don't make some. That's why I say I don't know. I don't make those decisions.
Right.
And it could be. I mean, I know of examples where parents have asked for measuring cups to be covered under FESUA, and they refused to do that because they couldn't find a category that would that they could cover that under. You could make the argument that you were teaching a cooking class and you had to have those as supplemental materials, but I don't think Step Up bought that argument. So the law doesn't list everything that's supplemental, and again, this is money that's given for the big expenses that you're going to have, curriculum, tutoring, those kinds of things. And you were already paying for some of that stuff out of your pocket. So it's not worth hassling over reimbursement for measuring cups. Just pay for them. I'm sorry, it's sometimes it gets so deep in the weeds that you lose the big picture of what the scholarship really was designed for. And and they're not going to cover every single thing because there's not a category in statute. And Step Up and AAA are required to be audited, and auditors like to find problems when they go, or they don't feel like they've done
That's all
their
they're looking
job.
for. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So give them a break. It's like,
The more the
really,
merrier. Problems.
we don't want to destroy the hand that's giving us money. So, I'm on my soapbox now, but
Yeah.
I'll get off. Go to the next question.
Okay. Any update on standardized testing, or are we still waiting for a decision on that? I think we answered that one, Sabrina. We're still waiting on a decision on that.
No, there's a list of standardized tests out there.
No, I think she means if the parent can proctor, because she said that
yeah, okay.
right after. So, yeah. My concern is on the debit card. Is most debit card do not have fraud protection to the level of credit card does. If we use the card to make purchases on a website or any store, I don't know where you're getting your bank cards from, but my bank, if I make a purchase on one side of town and then a purchase on another side of town, sometimes it'll shut my card off because it's like, hey, was that you? And I don't know the answer to that for the cards, but we can follow up on what kind of fraud protection is available for you.
And I don't like debit cards, so I don't use them. I can't give you any personal information about that.
Because you apply first and they're fine. Okay. If you don't use all the funds after the kids have graduated high school, what happens to the extra funds?
I'm sure that's in the bill somewhere, but I don't remember where. So I cannot answer that question today.
I don't know that it would be called. I don't know what the word would be to do a word search for it either. It wouldn't be called extra funds. They would call it something else.
No, it would be under payments, but.
If you decide that PEP, if you're going to keep looking that up, I'll read another one and we can come back to it.
Okay.
If you decide that PEP isn't quite right for your family after accepting and seeing how things are, can you exit at any time? Yes. Are the reimbursements retroactive, previous school years, or just the current school year? So that's a great question, Erica. PEP was not a thing in previous school years. It was enacted on July 1st. So only purchases made after its enactment, after it became legislation, would qualify. Do you know why there are differences between the UA and PEP purchasing guides that are not because of statute, such as the spending caps being removed from UA and the UA guide lists zoos and aquariums, but PEP doesn't? Do you think they will be updating the guide at all before December? I'm sure they'll be updating the guide. I don't have any additional information on the differences between UA and PEP purchasing guides that are not statute-based. Brenda, do you?
What was your question? I followed everything but your question.
She said, do you know why there are differences in UA and PEP purchasing guides that are not statute-based?
I got that, because the needs of the students are different.
Right.
It's in statute, the PEP is more limited in the way funds can be spent. And if you want a fish tank, it has to be part of some sort of curriculum requirement. And they may require you to prove that you had to have that in order to do the study. I mean, you could do a marine ecology study with out of 4-H. They have a contest for that. And you might want a saltwater tank and put the fish in the saltwater tank if they're, minnows small enough to go in a fish tank. And that could be possibly, I'm not making the decision, remember, but it could be a requirement to learn the fish in a marine ecology contest. So you might be able to justify it, but you're going to have to justify any purchase that isn't listed.
Somebody says, I came in late. Was there any further information about the scholarship, and will we be getting approved for PEP by September 1st, or will it be later than that? Will they be doing any approvals after September 1st? Is probably a better question.
What do you mean approval for the PEP?
Yeah. Yes. Let's see. Yes.
Okay. Yes, they will be as long as the 20,000 scholarships haven't been awarded. But if you come in after September 1st, when the money is dropped, you may not get a full year's scholarship. It may be prorated to 3 quarters instead of the 4 quarters because the
Right.
money's dropped at 4 different times during the year.
Right. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
Okay,
Sometimes it
let
jumps.
me answer. I found the answer to the question. I think that this is it. It's
Okay.
on page 66 in
So let's go back and
HB1.
restate the question. It was the question about what happens to the extra funds after the kids have graduated high school. What happens to those funds?
Right. Okay, it says, well, maybe I didn't answer that question. I was looking at what, this funds, let's see. Parents approve funds transferred before in scholarship. An eligible student. Let's see. Scholarship award to an eligible student shall remain in force until the student graduates from high school or attains the age of 21, whichever occurs first. That's going to be interesting because that is an FESUA thing that allows them to stay in until 21. Okay, it says the reimbursements for program expenditures may continue until the account balance is expended or remaining funds have reverted to the state. A student scholarship account must be closed and any remaining funds shall revert to the state after I don't know. It looks like they could remain in an account, but they're limited to $24,000. And I know that it would have to be used for some
Is it
college expense.
2B? So it says 2 consecutive fiscal years in which the account has been inactive, or B, reimbursements for the program expenditures may continue until the account balance is expended or remaining funds have been reverted to the state. Is that the answer? That what happens to the funds
Not
afterwards?
exactly what she's asking. I think what she's asking is if your child graduates, what happens to those funds? And a child is no longer eligible if they've graduated in the PEP. Now, in the FESUA, they could remain in the account because they could pay college expenditures. And that question of how long can they stay in the program, I guess, is what I don't know how to call because I think in this program, in the PEP program, the child is going to have to basically be in a grade level based on the fact that the test will need to be the next year's test and the next year's test. I'm thinking that there may be a grade level requirement, and if the child doesn't have special needs, I don't know how long they will allow those funds to remain in there. However, it says you can pay for post-secondary classes. So I think that's going to be one of the glitches that the legislature is going to have to fix in the upcoming
Upcoming session.
session, because what they tried to do was roll all of those scholarships together, and clearly the PEP is different than the FESUA. So I guess even though I'm thinking out loud now, I think we can't answer that question at the moment.
Okay, fair enough. Follow-up question to one asked earlier about if you can quit in the middle of the year if you think the PEP is not for you and you don't like it. Yes, you can. And would you have to repay the funds if you exit in the middle of the year? No, you don't have to repay them.
But if there's money left in the account, it will be returned to the state. That I do know.
Correct. It would revert back to the state. Yes. All right. Let's keep going.
Well, we're 106.
We are. Gradual enrollment. Extra funds. Oh, that was my main question. Would you be able to use extra funds for college? That was her question.
And that I don't know, but I am going to be having a call with Step Up. I will be on a call at
1:30.
1:30.
So we've got to go.
We got to go.
All right. We will have more in store for you. I want to say before we wrap this up, thank you all for being here. I know it's been a long hour. I think my question was misunderstood. Jennifer, where was your question? I have no idea what that question was. There it was. Do you know the differences between UA and PEP? Well, you know what? Follow up in the forum. So this is wonderful time for me to talk about this. Follow up in the forum, Jennifer. Jump over here in the forum and ask the question here. Dive into the PEP FAQ. Post it here. Let's get a better understanding of that question and a better answer for it as well. And then also, this is a lot of behind the scenes work. It takes a lot of time and effort to do these. It's about 3 full-time jobs, and no one is being paid a full-time wage at all. None of us are. So please take a moment and donate. Pick a level of support, and these are monthly support tiers you can dive into. We had about 40 people on the live stream today, but we don't have 40 supporters on the website. So I would love to see that change if we had just even $5 per family that was being committed monthly. We can help fund the lobbying that we're doing. Right now, it's pretty much all volunteer work. And as much as we love all of you, we also love taking care of our families while doing multiple full-time jobs. So exactly. It would make it a lot easier if this work is supported. Keep that in mind. Brenda, do you have anything else before we close out the day? Thank you for this long hour. I know that the digital world is not your thing, but I appreciate you being here with me to provide this for everyone.
Thank you all for being here, and thank you so much, Jason.
You're very welcome. All right, I'll let you get back to it.